Want to speak real English from your first lesson? Sign up for your free lifetime account at EnglishClass101.com.
Hi everybody, my name is Alicia. Today I'm going to be talking about the verb to be. So in this lesson I'm going to talk about the use of the word to be, and I'm going to introduce a few example sentences as well as give some explanations about some questions that you guys have had about the different uses of the verb to be, specifically different conjugations of the verb to be. So let's get started. Okay. So the first point I want to mention about the verb to be is that be expresses a state or a condition. This is some point about the way a person is, or a characteristic, a feature of a person, an object, a situation. So we use be to talk about existence. Existence is like the base level of the verb, the base meaning of the verb. So maybe you've heard the very famous Shakespeare expression, the expression from the Shakespeare play Hamlet, to be or not to be. This is a very famous expression which uses the verb to be. But here, this famous speech comes from the character's kind of internal monologue, or the character's thoughts about whether to be alive, to exist, or not to be, to not exist, to be dead. So in this case, yes, we are using the verb, or the verb is used to mean existence, to mean alive or not alive. However, in modern English today, we use the verb to be in many cases, not referring to being alive or not alive, but we use it as a linking verb. So to be, and the negative form, is used to connect the subject to its other information. This is the purpose of a linking verb. We have a subject and some other information about the subject. We use the verb to be to link those two things together. So I've prepared a lot of examples and some conjugation review points that I hope can help show some of these, the ways we can use the verb to be as in modern American English. Let's take a look first at the present tense. So please remember that depending on the subject of the sentence, the conjugation of the verb to be is going to change. So if the subject of the present sentence is I, we'll use am. If the subject is he, she, or it, we'll use is. If the subject is you, we, or they, we use are. So please keep these in mind. Of course, the negative form, we add not after this. So I am not, he is not, you are not, for example. Let's look at a few simple examples here. The subject he, for he, I apply is, the conjugation is. He is my brother. So here is my subject, he. Extra information, my brother, and is. This is my linking verb. It connects the information together. Another example, the neighbors are noisy. Please be careful. I've noticed that many people forget that they're actually using a plural when they talk about neighbors or parents, for example. This little s here, the neighbors, the people who live next to me, this is a plural subject. So we should apply the same rule we use for they. They are, in this case. The neighbors are noisy. Here is another example. The computers, not people here, but multiple objects. The computers, that S sound, it marks the plural form. So we have to use the same conjugation rule. The computers, they are, essentially, they are all broken here. One more, you are not my friend. So here we have the subject you and the negative, not my friend. You are not my friend. So in each of these, we are connecting the subject with some other information using a conjugated form of the verb be. Okay. I also want to mention the infinitive form, this to plus be. So I talked about to be a little bit here. To be meaning existence. We can use to be in modern English as well, so meaning there's no change to the verb. But we use it in a few situations referring to existence, referring to a situation. So let's take a look at a few examples. So here I have, I want her to be my boss. I want her to be my boss, meaning she is not my boss now, but in the future, I want her to be. I want her to be in the state of being my boss. I want her to become my boss. However, we don't say become. I want her to be my boss. So this is maybe a desire I want for a future situation where a person, her in this case, is desired to be, to exist in a condition as this person's boss. Okay, let's try another example. This is a very, very common example. Please tell him to be on time. To be is used here before the expression on time. So on time means the correct time. So for example, if the meeting begins at 1 o'clock, he needs to be in the meeting room at 1 o'clock. So to be, in this case, means be in a condition, be in the state of on time, at the correct time. So this is a very common one. Tell him to be on time. Please be on time, meaning you, in your condition, your status in the day, should be on time. So this is a great one to remember. Here's one more example, again about time. It's very commonly used for time, for schedules. Didn't they tell you to be here at 8 o'clock? So again, to be meaning exist here, to bring yourself here. You need to exist here at 8 o'clock. Didn't they tell you that? So again, to be refers to your body, your person here, existing. So I need to be here to make these videos, or I need to be in the studio to do a live stream every week. I need to be somewhere. So we use be to talk about our body's position or our body's location, where we exist. We can use to be with that. Okay, so I've already started talking about a few different prepositions actually. I mentioned I need to be at the studio, or I need to be in the office, for example. There are a few common prepositions that we can use with the verb to be. So because to be refers to our existence, refers to our location, for example, we can use it with a few prepositions like in or at. So I can say I need to be in the office. I need to be at the office. Both are okay to use with the verb to be because they talk about, or they help us express our existence, our condition, where we are located. We can also use with to talk about people, like I want to be with my family this weekend, or I want to be with my husband or my wife later, or I want to be with my friends every day, for example. So we can use with along with the verb to be. So these are a couple of common prepositions you'll see with the verb to be and its various forms. Okay, so let's continue on to a couple different grammar points. Let's talk now about the past tense. We can use to be in past tense. Just remember, again, the verb does conjugate here. It's I was, if the subject of the sentence is I. He, she, and it was. He was, she was, it was. And with you, we, and they, we use were. You were, they were, we were. Here, I've used it as in I was late to work, past tense. The neighbors were noisy. So again, as I talked about with the present tense example, neighbors is plural, so the rule for they applies here. They were noisy. Same thing here. I used the same sentence, just in past tense. The computers were all broken. One more, she wasn't very friendly, so a negative form. And please remember that you can use the contracted form. Instead of was not, we can use wasn't. It sounds a lot more natural. She wasn't very friendly. So please keep in mind the past tense forms as well, the past tense form and the negative forms too. All right, let's continue on to a couple different points. I want to talk about the continuous or the progressive form. A couple patterns. Some of you have sent in questions about the use of the word being in sentences like these. Like, what's the difference between including being and no being in an example sentence? So let's take a look at a couple examples. We use being in this progressive form to express a temporary state. So if you've watched any videos about the continuous form or the progressive form, you know we use it sometimes to talk about a temporary state, something that's not always true, but for now it is true. The same rule applies to being. So if we can imagine the blue line here is a present tense statement. Present tense, remember, is something that's always true. It's a general fact. The red line here is a temporary situation. So here I have past, present, now, and the future. So let's look at these two example sentences. My brother is annoying. My brother's not really annoying. My brother is annoying is a present tense sentence. So this is a general fact, for an example. A general fact, always true. My brother is annoying. I have an adjective here. My brother is annoying. However, in this sentence, my brother is being annoying right now. My brother is being annoying means in this point in time only, for this short period of time only, right now, my brother is being. He's in the condition. His status, his existence is annoying right now. If I said my brother is annoying right now, it's okay. But being annoying, it sounds a bit more natural to a native speaker. My brother is being annoying right now. Let's look at one more example. My computer is not cooperative. I've used the negative, not cooperative. So this is a little bit of a funny sentence. It suggests maybe my computer can think for itself. So cooperative, meaning my computer is not working very well, in other words. But here I've used the adjective, my computer is not cooperative. So maybe I have an old computer. So every day, in this sentence, in a present tense sentence, my computer is not cooperative. It doesn't work very well. However, if I want to use being here, I can say my computer wasn't, in past tense maybe, my computer wasn't being cooperative today. So in this sentence, we see today only. My computer was not being. My computer was not functioning. My computer was not existing in a cooperative state. Its condition was not cooperative for me in that day. So here I've used being. My computer wasn't cooperative today is okay as well, but we can use being. It kind of emphasizes the existence. It emphasizes that temporary condition here. So this sounds really nice. My computer wasn't being cooperative today. Try to use this if you like. So again, we use this for a temporary situation. Keep that in mind. Being blah, blah, blah. Being before your adjective in this case. So that's one point I wanted to mention. Let's move on to a couple more maybe difficult or advanced points I wanted to share, and I want to introduce a few examples here too. First, present perfect tense. We've talked about the present perfect tense in some other videos before, but let's review. When your subject is I, we use have been. When this subject is he, she, or it has been, he has been, she has been, it has been. When we use you, we, and they, it's have been. You have been, they have been, we have been. So we can use this as we've looked at in the past. I have been studying. Here's our present perfect form. The past participle form, been. I have been, she has been working, they have been living. And then some questions. Have we been sleeping? Or where have you been living, for example? Here you'll see we use been, the past participle form of the verb, here in present perfect tense. So maybe many of you are familiar. Maybe this kind of pattern is okay for you. But let's kind of look at a few examples that are a bit more difficult or a bit more advanced, like the past perfect tense. So here, in past perfect tense, we need to change from have, as we've done with present perfect, to had, the past tense. So here, all of these are going to be the same verb. I had been, he had been, you had been. We keep the verb be with been here. But we can actually change all of these sentences I just talked about in present perfect, to the past perfect tense just by changing the verb have here. So for example, I had been studying, she had been working, they had been living, for example. We can make past perfect sentences just by changing the verb here. So please keep this in mind. The verb to be does not change in this case, but we can make some more complex sentences, in this case, a past perfect sentence, quite easily, actually, with no change to the be verb. All right, there's one more situation or one more kind of sentence I want to mention today, and that's sentences that use if clauses. So if something, then something else, these if-then type statements. So here's one example. If more people had come, it would have been a better party. It would have been. So here we see there's an if statement that introduces a point. So here's my if clause. If more people had come, it would have been a better party. So here, I'm talking about a past situation. So at the party, maybe not a lot of people came to the party, but if more people had come in the past, it would have been a better party. So I want to introduce this because a lot of people have no problem with the if clause, like if more people had come or if more people had been at the party. However, many people forget to conjugate the verb in the main clause. It would have been. So please don't forget this part. It would have been. Don't forget your would either here. Let's look at one more. If you had been here earlier, so here we see the verb to be is in our if clause. If you had been here earlier, you would have heard my good news in this case. So here, the to be verb is in the if clause, in that if clause at the beginning of the sentence. If you had been here, if your body had existed in this place earlier, you would have heard my good news. So here we can see it in the if clause of the sentence. This is a very useful one. If you had been here earlier, you can use this in a surprising number of situations, I think. Let's look at one more. If we hadn't been at the beach today, so here I have a negative in the if clause. So hadn't been, if we hadn't been at the beach today, we wouldn't have seen whales, for example. So here I've made a kind of complex sentence with a negative. If we hadn't been at the beach, if our bodies had not been at the beach, if we had not existed at the beach today, we would not have seen whales. It would not have been possible to see whales. So you can use this in the positive and the negative to make some very complex sentences just about existence, about where you or where an object is, where your body is. So I know that to be can be a difficult verb to use, but think about the various ways we've talked about in this lesson to use the verb to be and try to make some interesting sentences. So there are a lot of different ways to use this verb, but keep in mind it's so useful as a linking verb. So we're connecting a subject to some key information about the subject, and we're talking about our existence with this verb. So give it a try. If you have any questions or if you want to just try an example sentence, leave it in a comment and we can check it out. If you liked this lesson, please make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel too. Thanks very much for watching. Check us out at EnglishClass101.com and we'll see you again soon for more good stuff. Bye!